Check this out, folks. I am with Linda Szabo. She is a hypnotherapist here in Gloucester, Massachusetts, right down the road from me right now. How are you, Linda?
I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Looking
So
forward to it.
yeah, you reached out to me a couple of weeks ago to be part of the bridge, and then we had a chat just like this, a Zoom last week, and I was fascinated by your backstory and your practice. So because I'm not well versed in hypnotherapy. I always have the preconceived notion of the stopwatch and the spirals in your eyes and all that. So I want you to dispel as much as you have to dispel today. So
Yes,
I
be
guess,
happy
Linda,
to.
yeah, who are you and what do you do?
Okay. Well, I'm a person who loves learning new things and have a huge curiosity, which is what got me into this in the first place. Um, I'm actually in the process. In fact, what I sent to you was Brush with Life, which is the name of my hypnotherapy practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I changed personal change artist is the first time I'm using that title because this this subject of the mind and the brain is so vast and it's changing rapidly. The neuroscientists are all over this, and they are learning and discovering new things continuously. So my practice has gone beyond hypnotherapy from when I first got into it. So I'm trying to find, I consider myself to be more of a change worker because I use more than just hypnosis to get the results that I want. And that's what I've always been focused on. I want to get rapid and lasting results in a very short amount of time. So the learning and the curiosity came, I'll make it short, but when I was 10 years old, I read Know Thyself, Aristotle. I'm like, well, 2 words. What the heck does that mean? So I saved quotes. I was one of these quote people.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, if we're reading these quotes from these ancient philosophers thousands of years later, they must mean something, So at 10 years old, I thought, okay, this is the meaning of life. These are the keys. So I saved all these quotes. And then I got older, realized, oh, okay, they're quotes, they're nice, but really, I can follow this for my life? Not so much. So life got in the way.
Yeah.
Okay, go up 20 years. I'm 20 years old. I'm clueless about life, just happens to be the background, the parents that I had. I'm sure a lot of people had parents from the 50s who really were just about, they had the kids, the house, the fence, the dog, but they were kind of screwed up themselves and didn't have a lot of help. So I had to go get help. I went into therapy myself. 1 year later, fantastic therapist, got some clarity about life, took off to see the world. It was great. Hypnosis, change working doesn't have to be a year now. It's a couple of sessions and you're good to go. And that's where I've got to. So now in my 30s, I do the S training, Werner Erhard. That changed my life forever. It blew my mind. I learned there what all the sages I've been pointing to about your thinking. You are not your thoughts. And that was the best news I could have gotten at that time. I was like, what a relief, because those thoughts in there, they'll walk you right off a cliff if they think it's going to save your life, like they pretend you got wings.
You can be your own worst enemy. Yeah.
Yes. And that's what thinking is all about. And that's basically where I've come to today, that it's all about your thinking. So today everybody's talking about mindfulness, awareness, meditation. This has really exploded in the last 10 to 20 years. Okay, nobody was talking about this stuff years ago when I did EST. In fact, when I did EST, I would try to tell people what I learned, and they thought I was absolutely out of my mind. They didn't even know what the heck, clueless as to what I was talking about. So it's really, really come a long way. I love that. So awareness and curiosity pretty much are the keys to influencing who you are and how you're going to be in the world. You really want to change your relationship with your mind. And that's what I kind of teach people. That is huge. It's huge. And so actually today I want to invite the viewers to actually listen to this conversation, not like, oh, isn't this interesting? It's another, interview that Kory's doing online, it's great, No, see if there's something in here today that you can get for yourself. Because listening is one of the things that I talk to my clients about. You'll be amazed because when we're listening normally, we're comparing things. We're judging things where some people might even have a pencil and paper and, taking notes because they want to learn something. Yes. Well, that's different. That's your job.
Yeah, I'm
But
teasing.
if you listen with nothing on your mind, nothing on your mind, like you're the first time you're hearing any of this, that leaves room for you actually to have an inner sight, an insight of your own, because the knowledge is actually coming from you. And that's what I try to show people and have them be able to access that. So it would be like, imagine, listening like you're walking through a garden. It's just a very relaxed moment. You're seeing the colors of the garden, the red, the flowers, the blue, the greenery. See the butterflies flitting around. You hear a bee buzzing. And imagine you're just feeling so good what it's like to be relaxed and walking through a garden. And that's how I want you to listen. Because what I want to tell you now is that actually is a whole illusion. Okay, how you're experiencing that is an illusion. It's your brain's way of giving you a wonderful experience. Except what happens is, you're not going to take your notebook when you're walking through a garden, will you?
Right.
Yeah. So if you stay open and listen with nothing on your mind, and when you have that thought, which some people might, you might say, okay, what's with her hairdo, or, hey, Kory's look a little more adorable today than I thought, or,
That happens. Yeah, it happens from time to time.
She sounds like she knows what she's talking about. I like that thought. These come up in your brain because your brain never stops. 24/7, your brain is continually, have you noticed?
Oh, yeah.
Moving. I do one exercise with people, and I just say, set your clock timer for 5 minutes and notice what goes through your brain in just 5 minutes. And notice how many thoughts you have and what they're about. I think you'll be completely surprised. And none of them really have anything to do with you. And that's kind of what does that mean? So that's kind of the, where we're going with this, learning about the mind, So then bring me up to date. So then life happened. Now it's another 30 years since I did the S training. I couldn't even believe 30 years have gone by. Wow, this is really important because bring me to my 60th birthday. And that was, oh my goodness, I was going towards a depression. I'm thinking, I see the big 6-0, it's coming. I'm like, what happened to my life? The one I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a writer. What happened to that life I was trying to get to? Wasn't happening. But so I said, okay, this is not good. Sat down on the day of my 60th birthday, and I just took a really, really good look and said, what's the problem here? And how am I going to change this? I said, go back to what you know. Go back to what you learned from Est and what you learned, because I've read and I've always been a learner and curious about life. The mind has always been my passion. What makes us tick? I've wondered that since I was actually 10 years old, reading all those quotes and stuff. And I actually saw a TV show. I don't know if your viewers remember Perry Mason. Mm-hmm. And they had Frank Gershwin on. He was a comedian. Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know the name, but I don't,
Yeah. And he was on the stand, he was the murderer. And he was talking about, he was a schizophrenic. And he had this other person in his mind. There was the other person that did it. He didn't realize that he was. And I'm looking at this as a kid. I'm going, okay, is this a television trick? Or how could somebody be in your mind? I didn't understand that. I thought that's going to be a fate worse than death. Somebody could actually be in your mind. Oh, I wanted to know all about this. That started my journey. So now I'm 60. I'm sitting there going, what happened to that passion for life and wanted to be the artist? So I realized that I had all these beliefs in my brain. I didn't believe that I could be an artist or be a writer or be all those things I wanted to be. It's really, where did I get that from? Oh, I know where I got it from now. I got it from where everybody gets these crazy beliefs. Your conditioning. Before you're 7 or 8 years old, you have no critical faculty to say, hey, whoa. I believed in Santa Claus back then. I believed
the impossible is possible when you're a child.
Right. You have that magical thinking. But when you get to be about 7 or 8, now you've got that brain that comes in and says, well, okay, hold on for a second. Couldn't possibly make the rounds with the sleigh in the rain. No, this is not possible. But unfortunately, that also keeps us from when you're 60, okay, having these old beliefs that, oh, you're never going to be a success. Who do you think you are? All those thoughts that go through your mind. They're just thoughts. They really have nothing to do with you. And they came from somebody else, God knows where. They came from well-intentioned people, but people don't realize the things they say, influence your mind because you don't have that filter to keep it out. So I looked at that stuff. I went back to what I knew. I just said, you know what? I'm going to put back in my life the things that I'm passionate about. Painting. I started painting again. I started writing, and I started really seeking out, what does it mean to be a human being? What makes us tick? And that was it. I was off on the journey. About when I was 65 years old, I discovered hypnosis, and I'm on the internet. And I said, what the heck is this? And I said, okay, I can learn this. And this is going to be like a thing that people are going to be curious about. And, they can come and we could do hypnosis. And I saw the guy was 20 minutes. He had his issue cleared up, and he didn't even tell him what it was. He did it context free. And I'm like, okay, this is insanity. I love this. Got certified. Okay, well, that wasn't the end of the story. I got certified the first week. They tell you, hey, put the shingle up, open the office, and go to town, help people. Really? How do you get the change? I knew how to hypnotize people, but now what? So now I had to go back to the drawing board, learn what worked, what didn't work, and then use that and learn as I go. Bring me up to now. I'm 71, 11 years later. And it's like, okay, I've learned a lot of stuff. Some of these things people are saying don't really work so well, and I want to know, I have to know, why does this work? How does it work? And that's what I focused on. And that's where I've been brought up today. And now the things that I use give people rapid and lasting results. And after a couple sessions, they're good. You don't really need to come back and see me. You'll know how to deal with a crisis because you'll know how your brain works and what it does and doesn't have to do with you. And that is extremely helpful.
So, Linda, who goes to you? What is it? Not like a typical client, but is it someone who's been through traumatic experience, someone who just wants to learn more about herself or himself? Like, who would you say?
Yeah, all of those people. Mostly people, I see very smart, intelligent, capable people, who just have an issue that they haven't been able, they're stuck on it. Maybe they could have a phobia, a lot of anxiety, they don't know what to do. They're stuck. Maybe if they're a young person, they're trying to find their purpose in life. What do I do? Or a lot of social anxiety, they feel inept or inadequate and, with their friends. They just can't quite get a grasp on how can I get over this? Believe it or not, there's also allergies and back pain have a psychogenic component to it. And that was a real shocker when I learned that. If you have back pain, do not necessarily think you need back surgery. That is huge. I'm really saying this with all seriousness. Dr. John Sarno's work, he has a couple of books out there, How to Cure Your Back Pain. If you have any kind of pain, shoulder pain, back pain, neck pain, check out the psychogenic component first before you have surgery. And it's amazing, absolutely amazing, because all pain is in the brain. It's not in your back. It's communicated from that spot to your brain, this amazing brain that we have, in the neural pathways, the nerve endings, communicate and tell you, well, look over here, look at the back, look at the neck, there's something going on, okay? But it's in the brain that it's where it's communicating. So the brain has an incredible, this is astonishing, it can take a trauma and it can redirect the emotions from the trauma into your back so that you don't have to deal with the trauma. You'll be dealing with your back pain. That's astonishing. You can look up the research. It's just a fact. So you never know. So the interesting thing is when people come in with an issue, it's usually they're conscious thinking about it. It's a conscious, we make up stories. Our prefrontal cortex loves this. It makes up a story about what's going on, but it's not necessarily what's really going on, because behind the conscious few bits of information that we process, there's the unconscious processing, which is millions of bits of information per second out of your awareness. I mean, that is astonishing. So if you come in for smoking, might not be the smoking we're going to deal with. There's an underlying reason why you're smoking. That's what we want to get to. And then you won't be smoking anymore because you won't need it. So you never know. You can come in for all kinds of things. Don't actually think you know what it is, and you don't have to know what it is. Just know that something's not working. It's keeping you from success, or you're feeling horrible, or you think you have low self-esteem, which again is another concept the mind is derived to keep you not being successful. It's amazing how our mind works.
Well, that's fascinating, Linda. And not to get into semantics, but does the word hypnotherapy fit your practice at the end of the day, and why?
Yeah, it does, because, and like I said, I'm working on what do I call myself that's all encompassing, because I use everything and anything that I've learned. We're in trance all day long, whether we know it or not. Trance is a focused awareness. Okay. Focused attention is what hypnotherapy is. It's not magic. It's magical. So you go to a movie. What are you you go in the movie, you get your popcorn, you're sitting there, and all of a sudden, boom, the movie starts. Boom. Forget the popcorn, forget you're even sitting with anybody. Never mind a room full of 100 people. You're watching them. The Indians are chasing that, the wagon train, and you're thinking, oh my God, they're going over the cliff. You don't know for anything else. Focused attention. That's a movie trance.
Is that the same as like suspended animation?
Yeah, it's suspended disbelief, they call it.
Okay, yeah.
Because you've now, that critical faculty that you got when you were 7, 8 and said there's no Santa Claus in it. It's gone off. It's gone off in La La Land. It forgot it was entrenched in this thing, and it's not paying attention now. Okay, so this is when you're very, very suggestible. This is why when you watch TV, especially the Hallmark Channel, oh my God, you're emotional. Oh, Jesus. Okay, no, all the ads, they got you.
Yep.
They got you. Create an emotion and make a suggestion. That's one hypnotherapist said the basics of hypnosis is, get people laughing, super, super unconscious. Put in your suggestion, get your teenage son laughing and tell him, yeah, clean up your room, in the next 5 minutes. Okay. But this is the power of hypnotherapy. Hypnosis is getting you into that trance state so then you can kind of, do some work. Well, you don't have to use hypnosis in that direct way, watch. I use conversational hypnosis a lot, where it's just a conversation. And if I was really intentionally focused on that, I could be doing some conversational with you. And that's just a matter of using language that's flowing. And as you imagine, using your imagination, I get you to go inside using your imagination to see things. Because when you think about something, now your feeling comes out and you feel it now. And then that's where you have a behavior. If it's a fear feeling, you're going to feel fear. And all that goes into your body. And then we deal with where it is in your body. And then we release the energy. So that's one way of doing it. The other way I found that really works is I educate people on the meaning of how this works. So I talked to them about hypnosis a little bit. So getting back to your question about hypnotherapy, I use it in a little different way than traditional therapists do. So I'll take a hypnotic phenomenon that hypnotists use a lot to illustrate things or to show people that they've actually been hypnotized. Some people get the change, go into hypnosis, make a shift, and then they think, oh, yeah, well, I was going to do that anyway. They don't really believe they were hypnotized. That happens a lot. So hypnotherapists do a lot of things like, I'll say to you, close your eyes and just imagine your eyes are so relaxed. In fact, try it now. It's just a minute. I'll just show you if you'd like to participate. So just close your eyes.
Is this my happy place, Linda? Is that where we're going?
It's not your happy place. No, don't you go that far. It's the road before the happy place. Just imagine that your eyes are so relaxed that they just don't want to open. Those thousands of muscles all around your eyelids feeling so relaxed now that they just won't open. And the more you try to open your eyelids, they're just locked down, shut down. They just won't open because they feel so good. So the more you try to open those eyes, the more they just won't open. You can try to open those relaxed eyes. That's right. Now you can just test them with your eyebrows to see if they'll open. That's right. And they just won't want to open. Feeling so good now. That's right. And smiling is always, always unconscious also. That's right. So you can open your eyes, come back to this reality right now.
I've been doing that since I was 7 or 8.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
So
I like that.
So what was that like? What was that like for you?
Well, it's relaxed. Well, it's a peacefulness. And it also feels like the thing that the first thought in my mind is, why don't I do this more often? Because sometimes it's just good to just, breathe, close your eyes, and just be for a bit, So that was the first thing that came in when I shut my eyes. It was like, okay, serenity now. Exactly. It's just it's a calmness.
Yeah, and that's a huge, huge part of it. Now, did you feel that you could open your eyes, or did they feel like they were locked down shut?
No, when you started saying they're going to feel heavier, you're not going to want to open them. Yeah, I didn't want to open them, and then I always felt like there was a resistance.
Yeah, and so did you feel like they were locked down? You tried to open them with your eyebrows, and you couldn't open them. Is that what the experience was like?
Yeah, especially at first, it was just like, let's just stay here for a bit.
Right. So that's what I call a hypnotic phenomenon. And so I use things like that to illustrate what I'm talking about. So let's do it again just for a second. Okay. So close your eyes. Now, I want you to think that you're relaxing your eyes. I want you to think about that you're relaxing your eyes and that they just won't want to open. And that as you're thinking about that right now, you're noticing that you're starting to feel relaxed because it's sort of a nice trigger for you and you've done that before. But I want you to think about that you can't open your eyes, and just think about that you can't open your eyes. And, you can test your eyes as you're thinking about that. Do you feel like you can open your eyes?
If I came down to it, yes, but it feels like a heavier and more of a resistance than.
Right. Yeah. So you're thinking that your eyes are locked down, shut down tight. You're thinking about that, right? Okay. So open your eyes. Now, which experience was more intense, the first one or the second one?
The second one.
The second one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. So that's just the opposite how most people do it. And I love this because now I'm going to learn something today. So yes, which is very interesting. You have given me something really, so this is the first time I've experienced that. I love it. Now, usually when I tell people that they're thinking about it, and I've never used the eye lock in this situation, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Now, the point I'm trying to illustrate is you actually were doing this yourself. You were closing your eyes. You were imagining that they were relaxed. You're imagining they were locked down, shut down tight, as if you couldn't open them. But I mean, there are your eyes. How could you lock down your own eyes? Give your body this command. You can open your eyes, but it felt like you couldn't, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah. That's what I'm illustrating to people, is that when you go to that movie and you're absorbed in the movie, there's no world out there except for you in that movie and what's happening with those. That's the good director and the good script writer and the good lighting person. They've created such a movie. You're totally entranced in this moment. Okay. Now, you're totally entranced in this moment of your own eyes are locked. I mean, whose eyes are they? Of course you could open your eyes. But in that moment, it didn't feel like you could open your eyes. It felt like they were locked down. That's a total illusion, a trick of the mind. Now, think of an issue that you have made a thought of this morning that you don't even have to tell me what it is, that you were stuck on. I mean, maybe something like maybe you procrastinated on a project, or something, I should have got to this 5 days ago, but I haven't got to it yet, or something, I'm always not doing this right, or something. Just think of some issue and keep it to yourself. Whatever that issue is, that is just as much of an illusion as you locking down your eyes and not being able to open your own eyes. That is an illusion of the mind. That thinking process is an illusion. And that's what I want to show people. You thought this was real. Why? Because you got so absorbed in the thinking of that, you thought it was you. So you identified it. That's what the Buddha talks about. That's what the sages, identifying with your thoughts. Now you're one with them. But I say, if you can see that thought, you can't be the thought. You want to get some space in between it.
And as you're talking, Linda, I'm certain things and phrases are popping in my mind. Like, it's always good to have another set of eyes on what you're doing. Like, I try to have people describe what the bridge is. Like, people who have joined the bridge, to whether it's advertise, market, network, be better connected, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But no one can actually define it. And I have a hard time defining it. And so there's always like these little keywords and phrases that pop up where you need someone from the outside to say, no, Kory, this is what you do. Like, like, you are the bridge. That's why it's always good having someone from the outside looking in, because you get stuck in your own fishbowl all the time, and you can't get beyond, your own self to see all these things burdening me and weighing me down are really inconsequential. Like, people, my thing is like, it's a work-life balance. I never turn the work off. I'm always, I live by lists, and I try to prioritize. Here's the number one thing that's weighing me down the most. I have to get this out of the way first. And then I don't. I'll come up with other little things that I can just knock off in 2 or 3 minutes, and not the half hour,
right.
the mountain I have to climb over, right, when it's really a molehill.
Yeah. So there's so much in what you just said. You said, I have to. Where in the rule book of the universe is there the have to chapter? You don't have to do anything. Okay. Now, if you change that language to I want to, that kind of puts some distance between it. That's just one small thing. But you're right. You have this whole list. You have the things from the outside world. You want to. So let me read you my favorite quote. It's not that long, from David Eagleman. He's a neuroscientist, and he wrote the book, The Brain. And I got this from when I was studying with Jürgen Rasmussen, just a great teacher. And I was struck by this, and I read this to all my clients, to set the framework. And what you just said is perfect, because this is what we're talking about. It's looking at that big picture of how our brain works. When you get this, it's going to change your day, change your life. Okay, here it is. He says, how does the biological wetware of the brain give rise to our reality? The sight of emerald green, the taste of cinnamon, the smell of wet soil. What if I told you that the world around you, with its rich colors, sights, and sounds, is an illusion? A show put on for you by the brain. If you could perceive reality as it really is, you would be shocked by its colorless, odorless, tasteless silence. Outside your brain, there is just energy and matter. Over millions of years of evolution, the brain has become adept at turning this energy and matter into a rich sensory experience. So you feels real, like I'm touching the desk, feels so real. The chair I'm sitting on, It's the same with all your sensory experiences, okay? The touching the desk is not happening in my fingertips, okay? The seeing you is not happening in my eyes. The feeling that heaviness is not heaviness feeling in your body, okay? Smell isn't taking place in your nose. Okay, isn't that amazing? And here's the bottom line. So that in that silent chamber of your skull, the brain has never directly experienced the external world, and it never will. Mm. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Right? Yeah. And so all there is in there, and it's not even in there, that's actually an illusion where we think our eye is behind our eyes, and I'm looking at you. No, but that's another webinar. But it's just a computational storm. It's all that's going on there. It's images, it's thoughts that are coming up, it's body sensations, it's conversations in your head. That's all that's going on. We're giving the story that, oh, I've got all this to do today and I'm not starting with the thing that's important. That's your brain giving you a story about it. It's usually all about self-referential. It's all about telling you how you're doing. Have you noticed? Yeah. Constantly checking up on you, seeing that you're doing it right, you're not doing it right, what's the matter with you? Get faster, slow down. Now you do that tomorrow. All about you. That's its job. And when it's really out of whack, I call it the computational tsunami. Whoa, that's when you want to step back, pause, take a moment, like you say, breathe, close your eyes, relax, let things quiet down. Let that, because your brain is doing its overkill. Too many thoughts per minute, I call it. I got that from Michael Neal. TPM. Instead of too many revolutions per minute, RPMs like the car. Mm-hmm. Woo, too many TPMs going on in there. And when you're off, I was just saying this to my brother today, you're reactive. You're in reactive mode. It's like driving down the highway and you went on the rumble strip. You know how you do that? Go boom, 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 boom. Yeah. It's all your brain. That's all that's happening. Notice you just went on the rumble strip. Just get back on the highway. That's all you got to do. That's what it's like. That's what the brain is doing as we speak.
So then did you find yourself just in this, is it like almost this state of higher consciousness or heightened awareness or whatever it is, like all the time? And does that have to be turned off at some point too?
Oh God, I wish all the time. Yeah. You're always getting back on the highway. It's just like, I love the metaphor of the huge, ship is going from Boston to France. And I think it's about 65 or 70% of the trip. That ship is going to be off course. And the captain's job, is to bring it back. It's going to veer to the right. It's going to veer back to the center. It's going to veer off to the left. And by the time it gets there, it's gone off course 65% of the time. And that's how you really get from Boston to France. It's always on, and you're always coming back to the on course that the navigator, your unconscious mind, the greatest navigator, I think, in the universe, has set the course. Now you got to help the navigator. You got to tell the navigator where you want to go. It's waiting for you to say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. Even my journey here, like I said, when I started, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I caught a glimpse of it, said, yeah, this is my passion. I've had it all my life. Let's keep, and it's been quite a ride to get to this point in time today. And the pandemic was the final surprise, because I got here in Gloucester right before the pandemic hit, and got an office and I was ready to go. And then the office was shut down because of the pandemic. And all I could do was laugh. So no, I'm not in that state all the time. But if you laugh and you know what's happening and you're calm and it's your brain going, it's in that tsunami, you can take a moment to regroup and get your ship back on course. And that's the best I can hope for. Now, if I was one of these, the Dalai Lama or one of these sages, these gurus, and they've been doing this since they're, 5 years old, maybe I'd be in that state of nirvana all the time, but no, I haven't quite reached there yet. So you got to start somewhere. Yeah.
So then, Linda, how are you practicing now? Like in office, online?
Yeah, I can do both. I just got the new office now, like I said, over at the Wellness Center. I prefer to work in person, but obviously people have to live locally. And, that's what I'm hoping for, really, really to help my local community. And I can do sessions on Zoom. Now, at first, when I first saw this online, I'm thinking, how do you do Zoom sessions? What? I didn't get it, I used to be a real skeptic. I still am, but I'm a skeptic with an open mind. And now I've learned there's a little different way of working because there's a lot more interruptions that you can't control. Like people might have a dog that comes in the room, or the telephone or their internet goes out, so you learn to work around those things. But because it's conversation, it's really conversation with people, and you just want their focused, undivided attention. If you have a few interruptions, it's still going to work. It's not like, you're out and, if you're so relaxed, you're going to fall out of your chair. I mean, I hope you're sitting in a chair that's comfortable with arms and, the telephone's off and that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's very, very safe. So I can do both. And it's still very effective.
Yeah, because I can see I see these conversations between the two of us serving multiple purposes, and one is raising awareness in our community of your practice and your work, and you're easily discoverable, and I think that's one thing. I also have an international following that's very inquisitive, very much into open-mindedness, progressive thinking, learning about knowing thyself, really, at the end of the day. And I think it's gonna be a nice blend of that hyper local and the inquisitive international crowd. Because once I brought your name up and your practice of what you do, and how impressed I was with our first conversation, because I like listening to you, because I find it very alluring to listen to people who know what the hell they're talking about. And I like people who've done their homework, have their bases covered, bring something to the table, and can articulate it in a way that is sensible and accessible. And that's not easy for a lot of people to do. So I appreciate the conversation first and foremost. And I would love to continue the conversation. And so we're just asking folks here online if you think that we should continue these conversations with Linda, where she can actually answer your questions, whether it's we pre-record those shows or do those in real time. Linda and I literally live around the corner from each other, we found out. So
yeah,
that'll be easy enough. But I think I'm excited, Linda, because I think this could actually get some legs for us. And we can get some traction here and have a lot of fun and learn a lot about each other along the way.
Yeah. That sounds really, really good. I mean, it's really what I'm about, is empowering people with practical tools they can use today. Like I said at the beginning, listening is key. If you listen in life in a way that something new that you haven't really listened, when you really listen to a person, just in normal conversation, they're going to tell you a lot of things, but you didn't know enough to know how to listen and hear what they're saying. People they use a lot of metaphors. Metaphor is the language of the unconscious mind. It's very, very powerful. People show you with their body language, it's really amazing. Once you start to look for these different things and listen, then you can really make a connection with someone. And I think that's one of the main things I think that are missing, especially today with all this, craziness is going on. People need to really listen to each other, and not to try to win an argument, but try to really communicate something that they've learned that can make a difference to their life now. So that's what I love questions. I love to talk to people about this because there's so much out there. So many people are doing such great work, and it all works. I mean, most of it. I mean, there's a couple of kooky things out there, but it's just a matter of if you find somebody that you resonate with, that you can connect with, or you like that particular modality, then go with what you feel is the best, avenue for you to to use. I mean, over here in the Wellness Center, there's yoga, there's massage, there's meditation. I mean, there's a list of ways to help yourself, and people don't really understand. I mean, hypnosis is getting better at what people are understanding what it is. But if you ask 100 hypnotists what the definition is, they'll give you probably 100 different answers. So we don't, you know what I mean? We don't really know exactly how it works, but we know somewhat, just from using it for all these years, what to do and how it can benefit a person. So like I said, I've really expanded it out to use hypnosis like I used with you in the demo to illustrate to the person, to have the experience of what I'm talking about, this new relationship with your mind. It's key because people really believe that there are these things that are going on in their head. And like Rumi, the poet, said, and I'm not exactly getting it right, but he said, what you think, your thoughts are none of your business. And it's really true. It's just that meaning-making brain, which is doing its job of survival, wants to know what's going on in this very moment. Do I fight it? Do I run? Do I freeze and play dead? It wants to know. So it's making up a story, and that's the story you're telling yourself. And according to Lisa Feldman Barrett, if you watch her TED Talk, doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It's about 65%, I think she said, accurate. It's going to come up with a story because it has millions of things to process in that moment, and it's doing it faster than the speed of light, and it got to come up with something. So it's going to come up with something, and it's probably going to come up with what you already thought 1,000 times before that. Oh, I'm a loser. Okay, good. I'm a loser. Picked it from the archives. You're a loser today because you had that thought before, and we're going to go with it. Now you're repeating that pattern. Show people, first of all, that you have a meaning-making brain. It's just a pattern, and you can break it yourself. And that's basically it. And I think that's what most people are doing. Meditation, you just get a new relationship with your brain because you start noticing your brain and what your thoughts are telling you. The sages have figured this out thousands of years ago.
So, Linda, why do you love what you do so much?
Oh,
because you can tell.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Because when I was growing up, like I said, I was clueless, absolutely clueless. And when I got into my 20s, it was a problem. It was a problem. I didn't understand about life. I thought everybody knew more than I did about life. I'm like, how do they all know this? I mean, I didn't get the memo, And there was a lot of loneliness. I wanted to be an artist from a very, very young age. And this just wasn't happening. I mean, all I did was take care of life, and things that were problems and doing it very well. I mean, but it takes a toll. It takes a toll on you, there's a lot of suffering. So it's this old saying that, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I needed to find out how to lessen that suffering and have more joy, because I think being a painter, you have moments when you're in the present moment, you're in that creative moment, and you get a glimpse of the possible. And when I'm painting and doing my best work, I'm not even there. I'm like holding on to that brush and it's doing its thing. And I'm always astounded. And I'll walk by a painting that I've done and I'll be surprised, like, wow, I did that. Whoa. It's amazing to me. So I kind of got a glimpse that this was possible. And like I said, when I was 30 and I did the S training, and somebody told me something I had never thought of before. Like they had figured this out ahead of time, that my thinking was the key. I was like, oh my goodness, that blew it wide open for me. So I just see that there's a lot of suffering in the world, confusion in the world. People don't understand themselves, and there's a huge need for that. And if I can, if from today somebody heard something I said that just maybe they had been struggling with, and they saw something new about it, an insight from within themselves. I mean, I love to go beyond the mind. We are vast as human beings. Even just those two words that I saw when I was 10 years old, I have taken over 50 years to really get to the heart of what those two words mean, because it's continually changing, continually changing. Even up to last week, I read something that said, oh my goodness, that just put another dent in those two words. I mean, you wouldn't think, how could two words, change your life, And so, how much longer do we have? I have a couple minutes of the story I can tell you. But,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
When doing this work, about 20 years ago, my friend was a psychiatrist or psychotherapist, and she took me to a seminar with this guy, David Grove. He's passed away since, but he was a brilliant psychotherapist who worked with trauma, mostly trauma patients. And he was the one who developed this metaphors. I knew what a metaphor of verbally thinking, but he used the metaphors that the body was giving you. So that was a little different take on that. And so he said, he worked with trauma people and he asked them questions. And his thing was ask yourself questions, follow the metaphor, follow the body. And so I went home and I said, I'm going to try this on myself. And my big question at the time was, what are my paintings about? Because I was doing abstract work at the time. People say, what does that mean? It's like, I really didn't know. I mean, it was coming from my inner self, my unconscious. I had no clue about what I was painting about. And so I said, okay, I'm going to use this thing and do it on myself. What's this painting about? Well, the metaphor that comes up was a little drop of mercury. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, you grow the picture up and it became a puddle. Okay, then he always asks, is there something attached to it? Is there a memory or a sound or a feeling? Again, it's going into that computation of the brain, which I didn't understand back then. And I said, oh, I have a memory. It's a puddle in my driveway when I'm around, I don't know, 7 or 8, 10, I'm not sure. And what I saw in that puddle was I saw the reflection of the clouds. The sky was in that puddle. And as a kid, I remember they said, if you dig down, if you walk through down in a puddle, you're going to dig down to China. So, I don't want to walk. I was like a little scared. I saw the cloud up there and I said, well, if I walk down, I'm going down to China. And so I saw in that moment, I had a flash and I saw infinity / God. Boom, just like that. Saw the meaning of infinity. And then I just went on, I don't know, play jump rope or something. It was no big deal. Because I forgot about it for the rest of my life. Now, when I looked back after I did that, I said, oh, infinity, wow, that's a pretty big subject. But as I looked at my paintings and as I look at them today, there's one image, the imagery that has come through my whole life of painting is the deeper nature of things. It looks like I'm trying to paint the idea of infinity. Oh my goodness. I mean, if you look at my paintings, you see the below, you see on the earth, and you see the above. I'm like, wow. So this has just been fascinating to me. I mean, I'm getting all these connections and it makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you have some command, some influence, which you do. The only thing you can do, you can't stop your thinking, but you can influence it. And that's what I help people do, showing them how to influence and have agency in your own life in those moments of crisis. How to just stop and get back in a little bit of control here, what's going on. And it changes a person's life. I mean, I've seen people in my office get it. And it just changes them. You see it in their face. And it's like, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. Just by a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of experience of shifting how you think of something, a little bit of using your unconscious mind, which is super, super powerful, the unconscious processes that are going on right as we speak, as your thoughts are going through your brain, right, and everybody else's right as we speak. So it's powerful. It's powerful. And that was my answer to what makes us tick. I finally got some answers. Finally, it's been a lot of years.
Yeah. So Linda, what would you say to somebody who is either skeptical or needs a little bit more encouragement to walk into your office, or maybe is spooked by the term? or the thought of therapy or something like that, what would you say to nudge that person, or that to start a conversation with that person? What would you do?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is you have to really want to change and make a shift. One hypnotherapist is really brilliant, John Overdorf. He said one time, all we are is changing. And I thought about that for a long time, and he's right. Life is changing. The state of the world, the obvious thing that we can look at today is that is changing dramatically. The weather changes all the time. Our body, as we age, is changing. Our cells change I think it's every 7 years. Everything is always changing. But us, we don't want to change. So we have this thing about change. We resist it, you know? I say, why not go with the flow? You want to change, your thoughts are always changing. Okay. So change is not a bad thing. Change is really, really a good thing. And so it's different than it was years ago. Like I said, when I was in therapy years ago, oh my God, it was a whole year out of my life. That doesn't need to happen anymore. It's going to be more fun, and you don't want to trivialize somebody's problem. But sometimes they create these problems in their head to be so serious that they focused on it's even a problem, only because they haven't really, they're in a mind loop. That's how the brain works. And they're in that movie and they've forgotten there's a whole audience out there. That's just how you're focusing on it. So it's just a matter of shifting your thinking sometimes. It can be astonishing and fun. I mean, when I use my provocative hypnosis work, which is something I'm actually still studying, I'm doing a webinar, and this is amazing, amazing stuff. This is the final piece that I wanted to put together in everything that I'm doing. It's like a verbal Rorschach test. You know, the Rorschach, the prints, and you look at, it's almost like a comedian who's doing improv. The conversation gets so out there, we're both laughing, okay? Because it's stimulating without us even knowing it. When we're having fun and you're making some shifts and some new connections, your brain is connecting in new ways. That's what you want to do. You want to break that mind loop of where the problem is because you're focused in on it. You can't see the answer, but the answer is already there. You just can't see it. And so this provocative change work, that's why I'm calling myself a change worker, not just a hypnotherapist. It's a lot more fun than you think. And like I said, only a couple sessions and you're good to go, you know. And I really don't want to hear the whole story, the saga. Some people, you know, like to do that. And that's why they have psychotherapists or psychiatrists. If you want to go and talk about the story that you've said many, many times before. Unfortunately, you know, what that does do is it entrenches that path, those neurons in your brain. The more you keep telling that story, the more the story is going to keep appearing. It's neuroplasticity. They've found that what we're doing is rewiring your own brain by not repeating that story. So I'll be like pausing people. I pause, they want to tell me the story. I get the gist, and then I'm done. I don't want to hear the rest of the story right now. We can at some point if it's appropriate, but we're going to change that pattern that keeps going in your brain. That's really all it is. It's language patterns. That's how the brain functions. It's looking for those connections, those patterns. That's really all it is. So it can be fun. It can be interesting. You're going to make a shift, but the key is you have to be ready. If you're a smoker and, you know, your wife is telling you got to quit smoking, it's not going to happen. I don't care who you're with. It's just not going to happen. You have to get, you know what? I want to stop smoking. I want to do it today. Let's go get it done. That's the attitude for anything when the change is going to work. You have to be ready and willing. And then we come and I don't wave the magic wand. We work together in an interaction like a dance. I work always in the moment, in the now with people. That's where the problem is happening. And it's not even what it's saying, what's going on with you. It's how you're doing it. I always give these long answers. I know, I'm sorry, but
I love it.
It's how you're doing the problem. because you are doing the problem. You're not, people come in and they're depressed, say, right, I'm depressed. You're not depressed. And trust me on this one, I was depressed for a large part of my life. You're depressing. It's not a noun, it's a verb. You are depressing, and we're going to look at how you are doing this depressing. I'm not saying it's 100% how it's done, because there's a lot of other, factors that are involved. But most of the time, you connected to say, I am depressed. No, I am Linda. I am having depressive thinking, depressive behavior. And we look at, how are you doing this? Not what are you depressed about? And let me see, let's go back to when you were 4 years old. We don't have to do that. We just have to know today, how are you doing this? Are you sitting, staring into space, thinking about how, hopeless life is? Probably. You know what I mean? There's patterns to these things. Like I said, I know I was an expert on clinical depression when I was because I was so confused. I didn't see any possibilities, and that's part of the conversation that you use to depress yourself. So, any subject, even if you have trauma, you don't have to go back to the trauma directly. That's the beauty of this. We can get to it in an indirect way where I don't believe in re-traumatizing people. No, we don't want to do that. So it's a lot better than you think it is.
Yeah. Well said.
To answer your question.
No, that's great. So lastly, Linda, if people want to find you or learn more about you or Brush with Life Hypnosis, how can they go about doing that?
They can go to my website, Brush with Life Hypnosis. You can contact me there, or at the Wellness, Community Wellness, 222 Community Wellness in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And my email is lindaszabo345@gmail.com. You can find that on my website.
Yeah, I'll put that up here for us.
Yeah, and I love to talk to people about this. Obviously, it is my favorite subject. It's my passion. Email me if you have a question, if you have concerns or anything you want to know. I'll even call you, give you, a free consultation. Usually they're 30 minutes, but I love to talk, so they usually go on longer than that. And let's see if this is something that, you could want to work with me, or something we can do, or I can help you right there on the phone. Sometimes, and I can believe this, sometimes it takes a matter of minutes. I'm a big believer, and you say the right word in the right moment, it can change a person's life. Words are so powerful. And that's what we use as change workers, especially hypnotherapists. We use words to help change a person's life. Amazing, amazing stuff.
Very cool. Well, I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation, and I really did, Linda. I'm so glad that we connected, and look forward to more of these conversations. Folks, I've known there's a ton of comments here. If you want to, I'll have Linda's contact info there for you as well. And once you folks are out there ready for the next conversation, we will field your questions, whether it's in real time or pre-recorded. We'll figure that out. And then continue with, we'll have to come up with a name for our show, Linda, at some point.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm working on that.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited. Looking forward to the questions. I love talking about this stuff. Love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time this
Okay.
morning. It was great talking with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I'll be in touch. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye.